What's going on, everybody? Another edition of Bears Over Beers presented by Second City Gridiron. I'm Ryan Drosty. Brian Orenchuk will be here momentarily, and we have brought in the third man, the incomparable Jacob Infante, making his return to Bears Over Beers as we talk a little Chicago Bears 2025 schedule. Jacob, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing just fine. I mean, the all the hullabaloo, all the weird, like the hype of here's a game a day for 4 days is over with now. We know where the Bears are playing. We know who they're playing. So I'm sitting pretty right now.
Hell yeah. Been waiting months for this. We're planning our possible trips to games off air in the green room, and we're getting jacked up. We're going to be looking into possibly, what we think of the schedule tonight. Instant reactions. It hasn't been out very long. Obviously, we're going on the air just over a half hour after the schedule officially dropped, but we'll give our hot takes on what we think, the easy stretches, the tough schedules, what we think, the tough stretches, what we think overall about this schedule. And just as I am saying that, the man himself has returned. Brian Orenchuk, welcome back to Bears Over Beers.
Boy, how you guys doing, man? Jacob, good to see you.
Pleasure, man. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Daddy duty will get you. Daddy duty doesn't care about no schedule release, bro.
It does not. This is just the time of the year where everything's crazy, is it not? I was telling Jacob, I'm setting up for a garage sale over the next couple of days. I've been running around like crazy today. Literally came from my garage right down here to my office to do this show. Barely had time to think about the schedule, but we're going to do this thing, Brian. We're going to do it.
Instant reactions. Did I miss the drinks?
No, we have not done the drinks yet. We started a little bit late, so we were just doing the show open. You only missed maybe a minute of the show.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, Brian, start us off, man. You need a beer. The kids have been running you ragged. What do you got?
Well, I actually got something a little bit stronger tonight. Just going with some makers. I was at a bourbon tasting event for my birthday this past weekend in Kentucky, and this is the leftover bourbon from the weekend. And I think it's appropriate. The schedule makers left their mark, and here we are. Some makers.
Perfect. Love it. Love to see it. Jacob, what do you got for us tonight?
All right. So I went with I got like a little mixed drink here going. Because I didn't have any beer at my place. So I'm like, I got to do with hard liquor for the time being. So I did like just a Jack and Coke. I've got Jack Daniel's Tennessee Honey that I got in a white elephant gift at work. And I've just been slowly but surely dwindling down on it the more depressed I get. So we're, here we are. So I didn't go too heavy on this. I mean, it's mostly, mostly Coke, but, just enough of a kick to, get me going.
I don't know what you're talking about being depressed, man. You brought the raw, hard sex appeal to this show tonight, as I put out on our X.com page. We are damn happy to have you around these parts again. It's been too long.
I think it's his angle. The ladies love the poor little depressed Jacob. I think that's what it is.
Jacob, I might need to see you doing pulls of that Jack Daniel's Honey by the end of the show, just drinking it straight out of the bottle.
I might do that. I might have to do that. We'll see. But no, you'd be surprised. I play the sympathy card, and it gets women's attention. Doesn't retain them for very long because I'm single and will probably die alone. But we got to work on your close ratio is all. If you can get their attention, that's hardest part, Jacob. Yeah.
So work on that.
We'll get there.
Hey, if you have some advice for a young bachelor like Jacob, drop it in the comment section, and it doesn't hurt to get some extra advice.
Please.
Love it. All right, here's what I have. I've got from Lua Brewing out of Des Moines, Iowa, Sun for Miles. It is a hazy IPA. It's really good. I thought it was appropriate. It's been really sunny and warm here in the Midwest, as Jacob probably knows, over the last week or so. I think it was getting close to 90 degrees here in Iowa this week.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is crazy. So pop this open. I need a drink. It's been a week. I didn't have any beer actually either, really, outside of Miller Lite in the garage fridge tonight, and I realized it as I was putting out the garage sale signs for my wife. So I went across town to the liquor store and picked this up. Had to come through for our listeners with something decent. So
Of course.
here we are.
You're a man of the people. I respect that.
That's right. I'm gonna always deliver on these craft beers for this show.
Hell
Something new every time. All right, hold up the glasses, boys. Cheers, and we're gonna talk a little Chicago Bears schedule.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Guys, give us your takes in the chat if you're joining us. And of course, if you're drinking, let us know what you're drinking. It doesn't have to be alcoholic. It could be soda, what juice, whatever you have, jungle juice. We don't care. We don't differentiate. Whatever you have, we want to hear about it. So, all right, guys, without any further ado, let's talk about what everyone is here for. And that, of course, is the schedule. Here it is. Thank you to the Chicago Tribune. They've got a pretty good listing here. We can start taking a look at it. Now, some of these games had leaked out already in the days ahead. Like we knew the opener with the Vikings, right? We knew like the Giants game was out there for a little while. Obviously, the December 20th game against the Packers had been circulating. The Eagles game for Amazon Prime. But the rest started to filter in throughout the day today. And now we know. And we already knew the teams, of course, but now we know the order of the schedule and everything. Jacob, I don't know. What's your hot takes? What is your first thoughts as you saw the schedule come about here tonight?
Yeah, so I think honestly, just going over this now, I mean, in somewhat similar to this past year, I think there's a kind of a tough stretch near the end. I don't think it's as difficult. I don't think it's as backloaded as last year's schedule for sure, where you've got the team going like 4-2 and then winning one game the rest of the year or something like that. But looking at that stretch, I mean, week 11 to week 18 should be really interesting. I think the Vikings, I mean, they're a competitive team. It's a new quarterback. You don't really know for sure, but I think the roster got a little bit better, and you still have Kevin O'Connell calling the plays and, as the head coach. So Brian Flores is no joke. So Steelers are always in the mix. I don't know how good they're going to be this year, but I can never fully count out a Mike Tomlin team. And then you've got, Eagles, Packers twice, Niners, Lions. Browns, I think, is, should be a gimme. But, I mean, in the NFL, you never really know. And I don't think the 49ers are going to be – I think they'll be somewhere in the middle of where they were in, like, their prime Super Bowl years and where they were last year. I think if they stay healthy, they'll compete for a playoff spot. But they lost so much talent this year, man. It's not nearly the same roster as the two teams that made it to the Super Bowl. I think it's just totally different. So they're winnable games. They're winnable games for sure. And I think that, looking at the Bears' history, I mean, I think if they can go like 500 even in that stretch, then you got a couple of the easier games out of the gate, Raiders, Saints, Giants in particular. I think those ones are, must wins just because, you got to win the gimmies. So, but we'll see. Again, so much can change, but I think those are just some of the quick takeaways for me. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough schedule, but this is a much better Bears team on paper. It's a new coaching staff, new direction, and I think it's going to be exciting to watch.
All right, Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I haven't had as much time to digest it with the aforementioned childcare distractions, but I'm with Jacob. I look particularly at that week 13 and on as a really tough stretch. The Browns, as you alluded to, Jacob, is kind of our easiest game in that stretch, but they play us tough. And they have a tough defense. I'm interested to see how their offense might look, but like you said, you never know in this league. And they've got 2 young running backs. They've got some weapons outside. Always have a solid line on both sides. So that one really, that stretch, I think stands out to me the most. I think it's actually a favorable schedule. My least favorite thing about this schedule is the early bye. But I like that we come out of that bye with the Commanders game on a Monday night. So we have extra time to play the Commanders. I really, that's one that, man, that's one that I really think that we need for a lot of reasons. Obviously, conference play, but they're a playoff team. The revenge from the Fail Mary last year, all that I think is huge. That obviously it's on their turf too. But I love that we're opening up with 2 rivals, 2 NFC North rivals. I think that's going to really set our season up. How we do in those, if we split, I think we win week 1. I'll just get right to it. I think, JJ McCarthy's first start as a pro on the road on Monday Night Football with a Bears team that has all sorts of momentum and hype right now. Caleb Williams in his second year, extra comp, Ben Johnson. Nobody's got tape on him with this offense. That Flores versus Ben battle. I think we get that edge. But we'll get into predictions here in a minute. But I think that first stretch is going to be huge. I like our chances against the Cowboys and Raiders. I will say that much. But yeah, I think it's a good schedule. All things considered, like I said, other than that bye week, I think it's a good schedule, and I'm looking forward to closing against the Lions as well. So, yeah.
I love the fact we close at home. By the way, it seems like we've been closing on the road. I haven't looked it up, but it just feels to me like we've been closing on the road a lot of late. Obviously, last year had a good close at Green Bay.
Right.
I agree with you, Brian. When that Vikings game came out early, that we were opening on Monday Night Football. Selfishly, I hate having to wait all the way until Monday Night Football for our first game. I want to get right after the action. It feels like a long wait in week 1. That said, I love it because of pretty much all of the reasons that you listed. We don't know what to expect from JJ McCarthy. Perhaps you could look at that as an advantage. Kevin O'Connell, such an incredible coach. They come out and surprise us, and they win the game. I guess it shouldn't really be a surprise given the season the Vikings had last year, but I do feel like they're going to fall back to earth a little bit this year just because of the question marks there. We'll see. But there's going to be a lot of pressure on JJ McCarthy coming off his injury, prime time. First start, Soldier Field, massive audience. There's always a massive audience for the NFL, but Monday Night Football, week 1, prime time, that's a lot of pressure for him. And so I really like that.
Yeah. And I will say this with this little caveat, Jacob, I'd be interested to hear your scouting report with JJ coming out. I was really high on him. One of the things I loved about him was his unflappable nature in big moments. He's shown in big moments. And so I think it could easily be one where he steps in, first start, it maybe takes him half a quarter or so to get up to speed, but then he doesn't look like a rookie. He doesn't look like a first start type of guy. Remember, they got Jordan Mason too, so they're going to be running the ball. They added pieces, like Jacob said, offense and defense. It's going to be tough. The Vikings are going to be tough, and Kevin O'Connell at the helm. But obviously we know the NFC North's best division in football, but I do think that we have the slight edge in that one. So we'll see.
Yeah. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of family at the game. Obviously, JJ is a local kid, grew up a Bears fan. So there's that added element to it too. He's going to want to play well, but the nerves might be there for sure. I like getting him right away versus a little bit later, so we'll find out at least in week 1 what he's going to look like. And so I think that's a good open. At Lions is obviously going to be really difficult in week 2. Then we come back home against the Cowboys. I like our odds in that one too. To your point, Brian, at Las Vegas, that's a game I'm thinking about trying to go to. I know a lot of Bears fans are, just because it's Vegas. It'd be a lot of fun. I don't know quite yet if I'll be out there, but if I am, I might have to try to convince one of you two to go with me. Do a little meetup, drink some beers, maybe do a live podcast in Vegas. Now that would be fun.
That
Can you
would be fun.
imagine? Jacob Infante live from the bar at whatever Las Vegas Strip hotel. I'm
Man,
here for it.
dude, I don't know how insightful my commentary would be if we're going to doing that at a bar in Vegas, but I mean, I'd sure as hell try. That's all I can promise.
I think then you go in the buy. I also am not a huge fan of having to buy this early, but looking at those first four, you would hope at minimum they can go 2-2. And we can do the predictions in a little bit there, but I think it's a decent open. The other big, I don't know, thing I was noticing is just kind of like the rest that they get on the schedule, where they get it and where they do not. They come off the bye week, like you guys said, and then they have the Monday night game, so it's extended, like an extended day of rest coming off the bye week. I like that, getting ready for the Commanders. But then there's some short rest spots in this schedule. Like we go from playing the Steelers on Sunday, November 23rd to the Black Friday game on November 28th. So that's a short week. We've got Sunday to Saturday when we go from the Browns on Sunday, December 14th to then the Packers on Saturday, December 20th. Right. And then I guess, the last game, it could be Saturday or it could be Sunday. That could be flex, but that could also be a short week going from Niners and to the Lions on Saturday. We'll see. But it's like four places on the schedule where they kind of have short rest. So, and that's down the stretch too, when the schedule, gets a lot harder, I think.
Yeah. At least we're home for 3 of those 4 last games though, which I think does help for sure. Yeah. I mean, what I always love? I always love the NFC North versus AFC North clashes. I feel like that has some of that old school football, just tough physical football, hard-nosed teams. And I think we'll see that this year, which I like. And I think similar to our games, the AFC North typically, they battle tooth and nail. Doesn't matter what their records are. And I could kind of see that happening too, like a Browns or Bengals team stealing a victory from a Lions or, Packers, Vikings, because it just is one of those type of games. But yeah, I think the rest thing is noteworthy. And I always look at the rest we have before the Packers games, Ryan.
Yeah.
I feel like we typically don't get the best favor when it comes to that. And to your point, like we've got a Black Friday game. And then we have at Packers. So it's at Philly, Black Friday, and then at Packers. So we have a little extra rest on that week, our first game against the Packers. And then we have a little bit of a short week against the Packers following that Browns game, week 15. But at least we're home both those games. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I was kind of hoping we'd see the Packers opening weekend, but I like you said, I like catching JJ early.
Yeah. I'm going through as you're talking. Definitely 4 weeks where it's short rest and possibly 5th, depending on how week 18 gets scheduled. So obviously we have a week 1 to 2 also coming off on Monday night against the Lions. So that's a challenge that kind of jumps off right away. I mean, Bears are playing primetime a lot this year. And then obviously there's a possible flexes too down the stretch too, depending on how the season is going. So we're gonna be out in front of the national audience, and we've complained about that in the past when the Bears have been having really awful, humiliating seasons, and they still would put us in all the primetime games, and it was just don't put us in any more primetime games until we prove that we can have a successful season. But obviously the NFL thinks highly of what this team can be this year. I mean, you noticed that right away when they revealed the Eagles game that was going to be on Black Friday. That was the first sign, and we're seeing it here as the schedule drops tonight.
Yeah, I mean, and I think part of it too is Chicago's such a huge market, and not just that, but there are Bears fans like all over the place. I mean, you look and you've got fans in Northwest Indiana, you can have fans in Iowa, you can have fans in St. Louis, like all across the board, even down in Milwaukee a little bit too. So, there are a couple of different markets that are being tapped into there, not just, even then, I mean, Chicago's just freaking huge. So it's, a lot of eyes. It's going to be a lot of eyes, a lot of people invested in those games. I mean, I'm stoked for it. I think selfishly, I love the noon games just because, like, if I'm writing the day, like the recap articles on Windy City Gridiron, I mean, knock those out of the way, and then the rest of my day, I don't have to think about anything. I can just watch football with, turn my brain off for a little bit. But either way, I mean, it's going to be exciting. I think that one way or another, the nation's about to find out what the Bears are made of. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll see. But it shows that, the stakes are high this year. I mean, they amped up the pressure. They brought in, so much more talent, especially on offense, but both sides of the ball, really. And then now you're coming in with, it's a big year for Caleb Williams going into year 2. And now you factor in, the handful of primetime games in the mix. I mean, it's, there are going to be a lot of eyes on the Bears, and how they're going to respond to that is going to be pretty telling of how the season's going to go.
Yeah, I feel like we've not had the best results when we're on the national spotlight. Typically, I think a lot of teams, or a lot of fans, respected our Thanksgiving Day game and really questioned our coach. They thought we could have won that game against a tough Lions team, and everybody saw that Flus was a fool that day. But other than that, I don't remember too many, national spotlight games. Weren't we on Thursday night against the Seahawks in one of the most pathetic games of the year? Wasn't that Thursday Night Football last year?
I believe
I don't know. It was one of those primetime games.
It might have been Sunday night, but that was pathetic. It was like 9-6. We lost that game.
It was terrible football.
Yeah, and I feel like we see that too much. And so everybody kind of expects, same old Bears. Doesn't matter if it's first-round quarterback, Trubisky, Fields, Caleb, show me something when they start winning. And I get that. So I think that first game is going to be so critical for the fan base, for that national respect, and really for our confidence, because the Vikings, as you said, Jacob, they have improved substantially, and they were already a very solid team. That swept us last year. Mind you, one of those was the last-second blocked field goal, if I remember, in overtime. But still, Caleb hasn't beaten them. So I feel like that's going to be such a huge game. And even if we, honestly, if we win that game and lose the next 2, I would still be happy. I don't think we will. I think if we win that game, I think, who knows what's going to happen with Detroit. I think we can beat the Dallas Cowboys. It should be tough, though, because they're still a solid team. But I think that victory Monday night to open the season is going to be big, really big, for a lot of reasons.
First time since 97, I believe, the Bears have opened the season on Monday Night Football. I think JB had a tweet out earlier today talking about that.
I like it, JB. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is tough. It's really tough waiting so long for football and seeing every other team play Thursday, Friday. It seems like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, everybody's playing except for your team. But then we get to be the last ones to play when everybody else has played and half the teams have lost. We still are watching our first, our first game. So there's going to be a lot of hype on that. It's probably going to be the hottest ticket. That might be the one. What would be your favorite game to attend? Let's go there. I don't know if you have that on the docket, Ryan, but if you could,
it's a good topic though.
If you could attend any game, which one would you attend, and why?
A home game or just away considered too?
Yeah, whatever. If you could attend either one, any one.
You got an answer, Jacob?
Let's see. I'm looking at that, and honestly, I feel like, shoot. I mean, if the Bears have the season that I expect them to, I do think that Week 18 against the Lions is going to be a very important game.
Close the season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already, I'm ruling out versus Packers. So my family's Bears season ticket holders, but my uncle always gets dibs on Bears Packers. So, hands off there. I realize I'm not going to that, so it is what it is. But Lions in particular is one I feel like would be very interesting. Going over that now, honestly, I think Cowboys could be fun.
Yeah.
Cowboys could be fun because it's still early enough in the year where you don't necessarily know what everyone's going to be yet. The weather's still kind of nice. I think the Cowboys will be competitive, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I think they've got, a couple of holes just on both sides of the ball. I'm not too sold on Schottenheimer. I mean, maybe that's just me, but I think that was just kind of an sort of higher. But
Agree. Yeah.
I think that's a good combination of one that should be close enough that it'll be competitive, but I feel like it's still, realistic. The Bears end up coming away with that one. So out of the home games, at least, I'd say the Cowboys is the one that I'm looking at, and I'm like, that seems like it could be a pretty fun game.
Eberflus revenge game.
Ooh, I didn't even think of that.
I didn't even think about that either. That's gonna be interesting. Yeah, people are, I feel bad for. I was gonna say I feel bad for Eberflus because he's gonna get heckled like crazy, but I mean,
oh man,
he deserves it. But
yeah.
Whatever.
So I didn't even think about the other element of that game with the Tyreek Stevenson versus George Pickens. I think that'll be interesting to see some aggression, fireworks, and trash talking there. Hopefully, Reek, as you alluded to, I think it might have been on Twitter this week, Jacob. You talked about Tyreek. He's up for a big year, and I totally agree. It's make or break for him.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think he's got the skills. I think we have the coaches now to really make the most out of it. So that's even more of a solidifying statement, in my opinion. It's make or break for him. And I think he can rise, but it's one of those things you never know. But that will be an interesting test because both CeeDee Lamb and Pickens are top-notch receivers. So he is going to get tested often. Our whole defensive backfield will, both physically and mentally, and how he responds to that will be interesting. But assuming, Jacob, that you could get, maybe through all of your connections on the Twitterverse, if you could get tickets to any game, which one? Would it be one of those Packers games? I like your heads at with the Week 18 game against the Lions, but the risk you have there is what if, shit falls apart and we're playing for nothing at that point, got injury, we never know. So that'd be tough. But, how about, let me throw this one out. Week 2 in Detroit, Ben Johnson's first game back.
Interesting.
Especially if we win Monday night against the Vikings. Like, that would be a hot ticket game. And I would love to see Ben Johnson, Antoine Randall, and that coaching staff return to Detroit and, make some noise. But what about you, Ryan? What would be your most 10 game?
Yeah, I like the angle with the Week 18 against the Lions. The thing is, I just don't really like going to games in December and January. It's just miserable outside. That's why I can't wait until we get this new stadium built one day. So, I mean, that factors in just as a fan. I don't particularly enjoy the cold weather games. So I'm looking early in the schedule. I agree on the Cowboys. That will be a fun game. I mean, there'll be a lot of Cowboys fans there. There'll be a lot of banter. People heckling Matt Eberflus. If Matt Nagy thought he got it bad at his kid's football game, just wait till Matt Eberflus is at this Soldier Field in Week 3. It's going to be real bad. Yeah, I'm hoping to go to that one. We'll see. I have a buddy who's a big Cowboys fan, and I tried to get tickets tonight. I'm on the season ticket wait list, and they have a pre-sale of individual game tickets tonight. And I tried for the Cowboys, and I could not pull them. They were gone instantly. So I'll watch the secondary market on that week of the game, and might end up in Chicago trying to get a ticket last minute. But that one's on there for sure. I do. Going Week 1 is always a lot of fun. I went last year against the Titans. Now the game ended up not being what I had envisioned, but going to the season openers, a lot of fun.
Yeah,
but I think
we got the W.
We got the W. It was ugly, but we got the W. But overall, I think I'm going to look at that game against the Commanders. If I could go out to Washington, D.C. and go to that game, coming off the bye, Monday Night Football on October 13th, like you said earlier, I think it was you, Brian. There's a lot at stake in that game. Just the optics of this team, all the Jaden Daniels stuff last year, all the conversation of him versus Caleb, how the game ended. We got to have a really strong performance. I think Ben is going to get the team just ridiculously hyped for that game, and I think that's going to be a W. I think they got a lot to prove in that game. They're not going to be happy how it went last year. Obviously, they're going to want revenge, and they're going to be ready to play. That would be one I would want to be at for sure. I mean, it could be a window into the next decade of, you know, one of the top rivalries in the NFC.
Yeah. And another thing I think too is going to be interesting is looking back at last year, how many of those games were so close, but they got completely fumbled by terrible management.
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at it now, the Bears had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of their losses last year were by one possession. And I mean, just going through, I mean, especially Washington makes sense. I mean, the Detroit one shows in particular just, you know, poor management of like 2 to 3 plays that really proved to turn the tides. I think that's an upgrade that not enough people are talking about too. Is, I mean, obviously we don't know if Ben Johnson's going to be a great head coach. We can go off of, you know, what he did in Detroit. He was incredible there, incredible offensive mind, incredible play caller. We'll see how he fares in a head coaching role. But, and again, I'm knocking on wood as I say this, but surely it can't be worse than Eberflus, right?
Right.
Like, that's such a low bar to reach. I don't think we're giving that aspect of it enough credit. That, like, this team was close in a bunch of games, and just purely incompetent decision making ended up costing them the win. So who knows? I mean, we'll see. But I feel like that's an aspect that's got to come into play too, because you had so many close losses, and in theory, you don't have the worst head coach in the NFL anymore. It's definitely an upgrade on that end for sure.
Did you guys see the it was an interview that Johnson did early? I think it may have been around, maybe around a Super Bowl or something. I can't remember exactly. But somebody had asked him, like, a hypothetical situation with X amount of time on the clock and one timeout left. Would he take a timeout? And he was like, yeah, I would take the timeout. You know, like he already knows. Like, I feel like he's already better than Flus was there. But so the game that I look at, I mean, you guys all made some great points. I would love to attend all of them. You know, I'm the type of person I would layer up. I've been to Chicago in December and been to a game. I've seen the Lions in Chicago and Detroit play the Bears. And the Lions have never been the juggernaut that they are now when I've seen them. So that would be different. With everything on the line, week 18, there's a lot of value there. But I go to week 16. That's where my eyes go. Week 16 against the Pack, after having played the Pack 2 weeks prior. And including that week 16 game, 3 more conference games. So more than likely, both teams will still be at least in the hunt. I don't know if we've lost Jacob, but he might be swimming in that Tennessee honey or whatever it is he's drinking. But I've never been to a Bears-Packers game.
Same. And
having them at Soldier Field, December, with the season on the line, or at least close to it for both teams, that would be one that I feel like would be my top choice here. And I there might not be more hype than the week 1 game. The problem is I went to a season opener as well years ago against the Steelers with my cousin. Shout out to Dave if you're watching. You probably aren't, the old guy, but we won that game, but we didn't really do well the rest of the season. And so you look back on it, it's like, that was fun, but it wasn't, unforgettable. And so a game to attend with all the hopes and dreams of the playoffs on the line against a rival, that really would be fun for me. I like the idea of the Commanders game, but I've been to that stadium and it's not a great experience there. Now it would be super energetic in this case for Monday night. But I'll take a home game against the Pack, man. That'd be my choice.
Should we do some way too early predictions?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's go for
Why
it.
not? The alcohol starting to kick in. Time to become the super fans and become homers here.
Oh, yeah.
All right, who's going first? And where are you going to put? Can you draw on this by chance?
I cannot. I was thinking about that. Now, I guess. Hold on a second. I could do something here.
Yeah, let's do it. Make some columns. Put like RJB.
Yeah, I'll put it in a editing program here. I'll just do this on the fly. Let me take a screenshot.
All right, we would like
I'll get
to
this in another tab.
Take this opportunity to thank our sponsors.
If you want to sponsor the show, please do reach out.
Yeah. Oh, wait, we don't have any sponsors right now. No, but please drink responsibly and let us know what you're drinking. Hey, somebody made a comment earlier, said something about Crimson. What was that about? Was you talking about Alabama? What are you talking about there? Give us some more.
I don't know. Someone's spamming our chat room right now.
Are they?
Uh-oh.
Ban user and delete their comments. That's happening right now. Yeah, where was that Crimson chat?
Hell yeah. Yeah. NFL schedule release live.
Who is this guy?
It says NFL CBS, com, not even .com. That's the schedule came out like 2 hours ago. Asshole.
Oh God! All right, I almost have this ready. I'm almost ready to go. Just a second. All right, is this navy blue?
All right, since you're doing all this work, Jacob, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
So should we go? Are we going week by week, each of us?
I say you go through the whole season, but I could be swayed. Ryan, what do you think? Week by week, each of us give our prediction. I like that too.
So you mean like one person does the entire schedule, or
that was
like
that was my initial thought, but
okay.
I like the idea of each of us sharing the week. Now, thank you guys for being patient with us on this one. This is breaking news to your front porch.
Actually, the more I think about it, I think if we just go like one of us does all 18, it gives us a better understanding of like where we all stand each week. So I'm ready to go through.
Cheers first.
Cheers. Hell yeah.
Yes. Cheers, boys.
Here we go. Bottoms up. No, they're back. God damn it. The schedule release bot.
No. Who is this person?
in YouTube. So those of you who are watching on Twitter or X, there's some goddamn bot or something. So, all right. Versus Vikings on Monday. I'm going to go with a win for the Bears.
W.
Oh, yeah.
All right. There we go.
I think the Vikings will be competitive. I really do. But, first game of the year, I think it's, JJ's first start. I don't necessarily know how that's going to turn out right out of the gate. I think he can be a good starter in the league, but, there's a learning curve. So at Lions, I'm giving that a loss. I mean, it's entirely possible the Bears win that game, but, the Lions are a juggernaut. And until we see what they're like without Ben Johnson, I'm going to assume that they'll still stay the same. Cowboys, I'll go a W there. I think that's a Cowboys team's pretty flawed. It's, there's talent there, but it's not a full, complete unit. At Raiders, I'll go with a win as well. I think, it'll be interesting to see how they do with, Geno Smith and Pete Carroll in the mix, but that roster just needs so much more talent. At Commanders, see, that one's interesting because I feel like, they were literally like one play away from beating them last year, and it's a better team. It's a better coaching staff.
Yeah,
I'm
but
gonna-
the Commanders are better too.
That's true. They've got a really good roster.
They do.
And
Debo, they got Tunsil.
yeah, that's a school. I'll go with the loss. I'll go with the loss just to play it safe.
Ooh.
I know I was so close to giving them a win there.
I swayed them, Ryan.
Yeah, it was good. Saints, I'm going to go with a win. I think the Saints are going to be a number one pick contention. I don't think that. I think they've got so much more work they need to do. At Ravens, I'll go with a loss. I just think, between Lamar, between the defense and the coaching staff, that's a really, that's a really good squad. So at Bengals, though, I'm going to say that's a win. I think that as long as the Bears keep that offense relatively in check, that should be a win, because I think that Bengals defense is going to have its problems. And that's with Trey Hendrickson on the roster. If they have to trade him, I think they're in for a rude awakening. So Giants, I'll go for a win too. At home in Chicago. I think that's, a team that did get a little better, but I don't know. I think that, Russell Wilson doesn't move the needle for me at this stage in his career. At Vikings, let's see. I'll go with a loss. There. I think that, I think it's pretty, I'm playing it safe, splitting the Vikings and the splitting those two games, because I think that's what could happen. I don't know if both of those home teams are going to win or what it's going to look like, but I think they're both two good teams. I could just see that going down. Steelers, I'll say a win. As long as it's the Steelers, I think they'll be competitive. Mike Tomlin's a hell of a coach, but assuming it's going to be Aaron Rodgers a quarterback for him, I don't know. He doesn't move the needle for me at this stage. The Bears being at home gives them an advantage. So what is that? That's
7-4 right now. I think you're sitting at
7-4. Okay. Yep. Eagles then will be a loss. I think the Eagles, obviously the defending Super Bowl champions, the fact that that's going to be in Philadelphia is going to be difficult. At Packers, I'm going to give that a loss. I know that's some people aren't going to be too happy with that, especially after they won last time at Lambeau. I don't know. I think that as I've been hurt so many times by Green Bay in any sort of games. Cheers to that. But no, I'm going to go with the loss there. Browns, I think that'll be a win. That's another team I think they'll be in contention for the number one pick. And they have the Jaguars first round pick as well. So, next offseason could be a really fun one for Cleveland. I just don't know if the season's going to be all that great. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins. Okay. Versus Packers. I'll go with a win.
I was about to say, bro.
I'll go with a win. They, they don't win at Lambeau for a second year in a row, but they finally break the streak and beat Green Bay at Soldier Field. So that gets you to 9 wins.
No, they won at Lambeau to finish the season last year.
Well, yeah. What did I say? I don't know.
I mean, that's why 2 years in a row. Yeah.
They can't get it done at Lambeau 2 years in a row, but
Right.
they break their streak of losing at Soldier Field to the Packers. There we go. At 49ers. See, this one's interesting to me because I don't think the 49ers are going to be amazing.
But Sunday Night Football.
It's Sunday Night Football. I think even more importantly, it's at San Francisco.
Yeah.
And it's late in the year. This late December San Francisco is very different from late December Chicago and early December Green Bay. I don't know. That's the one I'm going to go for a loss there. Could it go for a win? Absolutely. I think it could, but I think that's one game I'm like, that could be sneaky. And with how good Kyle Shanahan's been in most of his years that haven't been absolutely ravaged by injuries on that roster, I can't rule them out entirely. So versus Lions. Do I want to go all in? Do I want to? Let's do it. Let's do it. Fine. That's a win. That's a win. Close out the year. Bears beat the Lions.
To sneak into the playoffs, right? Let's see.
Just sneak in.
10
Yeah.
and 7, yeah.
Also, do I have them? Hold on.
You got them 10 and 7, I think, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4.
I'm looking at it now. I'm trying to see. Do I have them undefeated at home? I think. I mean, it's an easier schedule at home.
No. Do you?
I think I do.
Oh gosh.
It's not a single. Okay, so I'm gonna flip the Lions games. They win in Detroit, they lose in Chicago.
Okay.
Because I don't know, going undefeated at home I'd love it, but it's very tough. So I say they pull off the upset in Detroit, but the Lions pick up the win at Soldier Field. So there you go, 10 and 7. That's what I'm going with. I was between 9 and 8 and 10 and 7. I think it's going to be one of those two. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. I think that if they're 10 and 7, they definitely will. 9 and 8, though, I mean, we'll see. I mean, the Seahawks just missed the playoffs at 10 and 7 this past year, so anything can happen. But I think it's going to be a much improved team, and I think that's what I'm going with right there.
Oh, I gotta fix this. 10
1
and
and
7, not 1 and 7. My God.
No,
You got them starting 4-0 going in the bye week. Then
yeah.
there you go.
I mean, looking at those wins, a couple of them maybe a little aggressive. And I mean, I could see the Steelers, Packers, Lions, any of those games going the other way. But at the same time, looking at the losses, I could see the Commanders going Chicago's way. I could see the Vikings, that one loss, going Chicago's way. We'll see. I think there are, going to be a lot of toss-up games this year, and not too many where I'm like, okay, the Bears realistically aren't going to win this game. So
Right.
I think this actually bodes well for Chicago. So because you've got a couple games that in theory should be gimmies, a lot of toss-ups, and very few where it's like, all right, this is going to be damn near impossible. So 10 and 7, a little aggressive on my part, but that's what I'm going with.
Love it. Cheers.
All right. Cheers.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you're doing
All right,
some
Brian,
good
you
work
want to
on
go
that.
next?
You got to fill up while we're doing ours, Jacob.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can go next, Ryan.
All right. Let's hear it.
All right. I got a W open in week 1, Monday night against the Vikings. I got an L in Detroit before we get all our wrinkles kinked out. I got a W against the Cowboys, against that suspect squad with Eberflus at the helm of that defense. You know what? I might even go on a limb and say this isn't quite the limb that people might think it is, but us Bears fans know that the Cowboys have a chance to win, but their defense plays too conservatively at the end and rushes Micah Parsons from defensive tackle spot or something like that on a 3rd and long, and we get a game-clinching field goal.
Love it.
W against the Raiders, although I really like what they're doing. I love Brock Bowers. I wrote an article about how I wanted Ashton Genty. So they've got 2 of arguably the top 5 players under 25 at their positions. And one of them, Brock Bowers, just broke all sorts of records at tight ends. So they're going the right direction. And I think Geno Smith is going to be an above average bridge for them. It's mostly up to that offensive line and that defense for me. But they're going to score points and move the ball because those guys are just so damn dynamic. All right, bye week, coming out of the bye, I think we get the W Monday night against the Commies. I think we come out ready. Caleb, we lost that game. Caleb lost that game. He didn't lose it, but the team did. Montez Sweat, that was his most inspired effort of the season in my opinion, against his former team. I think our defense has gotten better. They have gotten better as well, but I just like our chances. I like Caleb's development. I like him with a quarterbacks or a coach like Ben Johnson. I like the energy we bring. I think Tyreek has an interception that game, making up for his buffoonery. And I will say this too. I love Deebo Samuel. He's one of my favorite players of all time, but he has lost a step. And I don't think he's quite the dynamo that he once was. Saints W. I'm with Jacob. I think they're in contention for the number 1 pick overall. Ravens L. This is playoff football right here. These are the big boys that are playing for a Super Bowl, and we're hoping to get in the playoffs. Big difference. I think we beat the Bengals. How interesting will it be if we end up trading for Trey Hendrickson?
Yeah.
That might be a game that I want to go to. I would change my choice to that one if we do that. Giants W. They're another team in contention for the number 1 overall pick, although I am really interested to see Scatterboo run.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's a stud, which is not good for my dynasty franchise because I've got Tyrone Tracy, but I digress. Vikings, I think we lose. I think we split the season with the Vikes, at Minnesota. I'll split that one. W against the Steelers. Can't win without a quarterback. I don't trust Aaron Rodgers. Mason Rudolph, good at Oklahoma State, but not here. Philly got the L. Same thing as the Ravens. Super Bowl contending team. On the road, all eyes on them. National game. I got the L. Packers, I got the W. We beat them already. I don't think they've gotten better. I love how they picked 2 receivers in the first few rounds. Although, as I said last podcast, Ryan, Jacob, I don't know if you heard it, I like Savion Williams better than Matthew Golden there. I think he could end up being the number 1 receiver. Probably not this year because he's so raw.
Yeah.
But I think he could be, one of the best receivers that they've had in quite some time. I really, really am high on him. But they invested too much on wide receivers. They got 15 number 2 wide receivers out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got the W there. Browns W, same thing. I think we have, contention for number 1 pick. But I do think AFC North, it could be tough. It'll be a hard-fought W, but it'll be a W. Versus the Packers. I'm going to say we lose this one.
Okay.
Just because I think we split with them, kind of like you were talking about, Jacob. It's rivalries. Damn, wouldn't that suck if I could go to that game? That's the game I picked. Everything was on the way this way, and I go to that game and they lose. That's just, like you said, we're traumatized. We are all trauma bonded by our Packers, beat downs over the years. So I can't forecast a sweep in that event. 49ers, I'm with you. I think West Coast in December, we're traveling far away after being home for a couple weeks. Say L. And then Lions. I think we got the W there. Ben Johnson's last game, he's worked out all his kinks. Big game to put us into the playoffs. How many we got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11.
11 and 6.
There you go.
11 and 6. Not too far off.
Yeah, pretty close. All right, I'll add that to our tally here. Okay, 10 and 7, 11 and 6. I've had a lot of time to think. Hear your thoughts. Yeah, some of these weeks you guys are in agreement where I could break it up or I could make it 3 for 3. I think with week 1 with the Vikings, we talked about it earlier. I think that's a W. I also think Minnesota is going to be in the mix when it all comes down to it, but it's just a lot on JJ McCarthy's plate as a rookie in week 1. Bears are going to have a lot of hype at home, pressure situation, first start. I think the Bears, I think they get the win there. Then they go to Detroit. So Jacob said win Brian said loss. I'm gonna go with the L there. Love to see the win. If the Bears open with 2 divisional wins, it would be incredible over those 2 teams. And especially going into Detroit and getting the win. Can you imagine Ben Johnson walking off that field if they won that game?
I would maybe be more interested in the handshake between him and Dan Campbell after that, after winning week 1 and then beating Campbell in Detroit. I would be watching. My family would be walking away. People be texting me. I would be watching that handshake, and I hope they would be broadcasting it because that would be fascinating.
Yeah, incredible. All right, so I got the L there. I'll agree with Brian on that. Coming home, Cowboys, 325 game, big audience. I'll say W there. Eberflus walks off the field, half tears coming down his face. We go out to Las Vegas. It's basically going to be a home game for the Bears. There's going to be a ton of Bears fans in Allegiant Stadium. Also like what they're doing out there, but I think I got to go W for the Bears right now. So I got them 3-1 going into the bye. They come out. Okay, you guys were split on this one at Commanders. I'm going to say win. Talked about it earlier as one I'd like to go to. I've never been to the stadium like you, Brian, so I didn't know it was a bad experience. But I do think the hype of the game is going to be pretty incredible. Monday Night Football, the rematch from how it all went down and derailed our season last year. We got to find a way to win this game. I'll say win there. Coming home with the Saints. I'll make this one 3 for 3 for us. Say a win there. Okay, at Baltimore. Yeah, I got to go L. 3 for 3. Yeah, so we're going Washington back home and then out to Baltimore, basically same general area, not too far away. In 2 weeks, two games in 2 weeks, right in the just outside of DC and DC. Then we go at Cincinnati. Oh man, you guys both said W's. Yeah, I'll take a W here too.
Oh yeah,
3 for 3. Giants, got to be a W. And I agree with the thought you guys had on Minnesota. We won there 2 years ago on Monday Night Football with Justin at quarterback. Last year, did not do so well. Tough place to play. I think we split with Minnesota. I'll say L there also. Jacob, have you been to US Bank Stadium?
I have not. I've never even been to Minnesota. So that's
okay.
That's new to me. I'm going up for a wedding in September, August. So I'm gonna see if I can check out the stadium then. But I've never stepped foot in the state of 10,000 lakes. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, I am a big fan of Minnesota. My wife's from Minnesota, but I've never been to US Bank Stadium. So I had been to the old Metrodome for baseball, not for football, but never been in US Bank Stadium.
It looks great. It looks great on the broadcast. I mean, it seems like it'd be one of the cooler stadiums in the league.
Yeah. Brian, have you been there?
No.
Yeah.
No, but our co-members at WCG, the ones that have been there, say it's the best experience in the league.
Yeah.
So I would love to go to that game too, but yeah, not this year, as we all agree that it'll be an L.
My co-host over on Top Rope Nation, Jesse, he's from up there, and he was at the game 2 years ago when we won on Monday night up there, and he was in like a luxury box, I think, with some people he worked with or something. I was so jealous. And
you a Bears fan?
He is not. He's a Vikings fan.
Damn.
But I've told him ever since, I'll go with you next time. This year didn't work out. I'm actually kind of hoping to go to that game. We'll see. There's a bunch of games I want to go to next year, but I'll probably end up going to maybe 2. We'll see. But that's on the radar. I do think it's probably going to be an L, though. Although it's a toss-up game. I could see us sweeping Minnesota. It could definitely happen. But I'll say Vikings there. Steelers. If Rodgers is playing for him, I'm definitely more concerned. I know he's coming down off the pedestal a bit, of late, but still, he's still Aaron Rodgers, and we know the Bears' history against him. So
yeah, somebody made that comment in the chat. If anybody can beat the Packers, it's Aaron Rodgers, and I would normally agree with you, but he doesn't. He's not a Green Bay Packer Aaron Rodgers, and mean, what is that guy even doing these days? Like he's washed up. He needs to be gone. I hope he's their quarterback for that week. But I hear you. Again, we're trauma bonded. So
We are.
yeah, there's no harm, no foul.
I'll say W for now since we don't know what he's going to be doing. I'll make that 3 for 3. Yeah, I mean, at Eagles, definitely a loss for me. I just don't see us winning that game. Going to be really tough. Black Friday, huge audience, Super Bowl champs. Yeah, I got to go L there. This Packers situation's interesting because I could see this going two ways. I could see us getting the win in Lambeau again and then, just being so hyped for the rematch at Soldier that they win in Chicago. Kind of like, I think is that how you had it, Brian? Yeah. I could see that happening for sure. I would certainly love that. As Seth Rollins reminded us, undefeated at Lambeau Field, Mr. Caleb Williams. I'd love to keep that rolling. That would be incredible.
That'd be pretty sick.
I think I got to go with the L, though. I don't know. They're going to be hyped for that game after losing in week 18 last year. So I'll go L there. I'll say W against the Browns. Then I'll say we do get the win back at Soldier against Green Bay. Split with them. And then we finish at San Francisco, Detroit at home. Yeah, I got to go L. Make that 3 for 3 at San Francisco.
That's interesting. We all chose L there.
And I'll say we win in week 18 against Detroit.
There you go.
So where's that put me? 1, 2, 3. I got us 11-6 also.
They got you 11-6.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, let me add it to the tally. So 10-7, 11-6. That's where we're coming in right now.
Cheers, fellas.
I don't have anything more. I don't have anything more to cheers.
Oh, you got nothing else? Hey, cheers. Cheers to a season no worse than Jacob's prediction.
Fingers crossed.
We got to hit double digits. Got to hit double digits.
That would be pretty
Been a while.
Yeah.
So we'll look back at this at the end of the year. We'll be able to pull this stream up on YouTube with our screenshot, and people will be making fun of us. Let's hope. Let's hope not. Let's hope not. But I mean, I think it's right now. I mean, that's pretty realistic. I would say, given where this roster's at, the team's coming into the season with a lot of hype. We talked about it earlier. The NFL clearly sees good things ahead for Chicago. I mean, yes, as Jacob said, the population base is certainly a factor in the primetime scheduling too. But I do think a lot of people see the Bears as a big team on the rise. They did last year. It didn't work out that way, but we improved the team. We have hopefully a competent head coach. We know we can call offense. That's for sure. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. And it's not like 11-6 or 10-7 is a blowaway record by any means. I think this jives with what I've been telling friends of mine. I see the Bears as a wild card contending team this year. Mm-hmm. One more season of off season of moves. And I think then that puts them into the contending phase after this year. I think next season they could be looked at as a legitimate deep playoff run team. But right now, I think wild card is absolutely realistic for this team.
That's fair.
Let me ask you this, guys. Aside from Caleb Williams, what is the offensive line? What is the number one reason for optimism, in your opinion?
That's a good question. I can go real quick. I'll say the weapons.
Okay.
I think that, obviously last year there's a lot of hype around the weapons, but I do think that with, in theory, better play calling, Caleb Williams in year 2 with a better offensive line on paper. And I'd argue this group of weapons is deeper too. We'll see how Luther and Keenan Allen compare out, but I think Luther's more dynamic at this stage in his career, might not be as savvy as Keenan Allen, obviously, but, more explosive, more versatile. Colston Loveland being a massive upgrade over Gerald Everett, and then you have everybody else in place. I think there's, it's going to be a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but I think that's a good thing for Caleb Williams, just because, you have so many guys you can throw to, and with a, with a better supporting cast outside of just the weapons, I really think this passing attack could thrive. It's a Chicago passing attack, which historically have struggled, and you've got the whole the wins by the lake or whatever on those home games. But I think as long as you're still putting up more points than the opponents, and that's really all that matters. So, and I think they're going to be able to do that a lot more than they did last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, just competent coaching, number one. I mean, you said it earlier. How many games Flus fumbled away for us? I mean, with Washington, being Washington and Detroit on Thanksgiving being the most egregious examples.
Yeah.
But there was more after that too, and in between. So, there was a couple more wins easily on the table last year that they didn't get. I think competent coaching added in with the weapons. I have super high hopes for Rome Odunze this year. I think that things could really open up for him. And it's not that his season last year was disappointing. We saw flashes, but I think there's a real good chance with all of the weapons around him that Rome comes out of this season as the number one receiver for the Bears. I think that's on the table. He could surpass DJ this year. I'm looking for big things for him with Ben calling the plays. So I think for me, it really comes down to coaching with the weapons too.
Yeah, it sounds like you both agree that the weapons. I do agree. I think Rome's going to have a huge year. I think the element that Keenan brought with the savviness, with the technical part of his routes, all areas of the field. I think Rome can fill that, but I think Burden can fill more of the explosives. There were so many plays last year where Keenan got the ball in space in the middle of the field. I think Rome can take that to the house. And so I look forward to seeing at least a couple, 50, 60 plus TDs from him to break some games open. So I'm with you there. I think that's going to be huge. But I don't think the weapons are really going to hit their stride until next season, when we get a running back of our choice. I saw Jacob, you had projected Jeremiah Love, who I love as a tailback. He would be really nice in Chicago next year.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm going to go with run defense. I think our Achilles heel last season was our inability to slow down the run. We couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember that damn Cardinals game, and that was so depressing.
Mm.
And there was multiple games like this, but watching teams move the ball at will on the ground against us is not what we're about. And we've solidified our tackles with Grady Jarrett. Obviously, we've got Shamar. I think the rookie Turner, and I think Dexter back, having Billings back healthy. I think that's going to go a real long way. And then we got a couple defensive ends now that are run stoppers as well, with Dio and Sweat, both some run stoppers. I think our run defense is going to slow down teams and enable us to kind of stay in games. And then Caleb, in that offense, like you talked about with those weapons, will put us over the top. But it'll be interesting. I mean, we've got a roster. We've got a roster. All right, one player that could change the dynamic, other than quarterback, change the dynamic of this record more than anyone else on offense and defense. Go. You already said Rome. So is that your pick for offense?
For me, yeah. I think Rome is going to be the breakout player for sure.
All right. What about defense?
Are they getting Trey Hendrickson?
No.
God, I hope. No, I'll say Grady Jarrett.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll say Grady Jarrett. He'll elevate that defensive line. I mean,
So-
I agree with you about, the run defense. Week 1, being there against the Titans last year, just it was evident right away, how bad things were going to be. Tony Pollard ran for over 5 yards a carry. They couldn't stop first game, and that continued all year. But yeah, I'll go Grady Jarrett right there in the middle.
Jake, what about you, man?
Yeah, so I'll go just as far as just general X factors. Offense, I'll go Joe Thuney. I think that bringing him in should be, in theory, tremendous stability for the interior offensive line, which has had plenty of instability over the last few years. I mean, he's coming off. He's been a first-team All-Pro each of the last 2 years, and I think that, even if he doesn't repeat that, even if there's a slight step back for him, that's still a pretty big upgrade along the interior offensive line. So I think his leadership capabilities, his high football IQ, I think they're going to help him out unless he takes an unforeseen, massive physical drop off, then, he should be a really good addition to Chicago's interior offensive line. For defense, I'm curious to see how Montez Sweat does, because last year, maybe didn't put up the sack numbers that many would have hoped for. Solid at getting pressure, solid at stopping the run, but overall his season compared to his Pro Bowl campaign that he split between Washington and Chicago, 2024 is a little disappointing. So I think that if he can bounce back with an improved defensive line, with a better interior, with ideally an upgrade with Odeyingbo over DeMarcus Walker at that other edge spot, I think there could be more opportunities for him to shine. So will it happen? I mean, we'll see. But I think if he were to bounce back to that 2023 level of production, that would be massive for this Bears defensive line and massive for the pass rush in general, and huge, super helpful for the coverage too, to have a consistent force off the edge, generating pressure like that.
Yeah. They speaking of Montez, I think another factor is just his contract situation. Don't the Bears have an out with him after this season? So if he doesn't produce, they can get out of that deal.
That's a good question. I can actually check, because that's something I haven't looked into. I know like Edmonds has an out. I know Swift has an out. I know Kmet has an out. Let me see if Sweat does.
My camera's all screwed up, by the way. I don't know what's going on.
You're all fuzzy. While you're looking it up, Jacob, I'll give you mine. So I'm going to go Drew Dahlman on offense. We have, and I think you made another post about that, Jacob, about the lack of center play we've had over the years recently. I think that is going to, because we've seen solid guard play. When Tev was healthy, he was a Pro Bowl caliber, maybe not all pro because he wasn't as consistent, but he was for what we have seen offensive line, he was top notch. We've seen that. We've not seen center play. And with Caleb Williams protecting that pocket, I'm going to go Drew Dahlman on offense. On defense, I'm going to go with our boy Ryan, Austin Booker.
Ooh,
I think if he can step up, remember he was drafted a year early. Jacob, I know you liked him coming out.
Yeah.
And he was drafted a little bit early, but he's been in it a year now. And he's going to have his chances, especially on passing downs. And if he can bring that Mark Anderson type presence on passing downs and create pressure, get those sacks or those pressures, I think that will be more monumental to these record outcomes than anyone else on defense. It's kind of to your point, regarding Montez Sweat. If we can get that pressure opposite Sweat, which is going to allow Sweat to do his thing, along with Grady Jarrett, I think Austin Booker, he's the guy that I feel like is our X factor on defense. I feel like at each level we've got playmakers, and that's kind of our one question mark. I feel like the exchange of Dio for DeMarcus Walker, that's kind of a wash. But if Austin Booker can take a step up, then I think we're cooking with gas when it comes to rushing the pass.
Do you find anything on that contract, Jacob?
Cheers.
Yeah. So there is an out in his contract next year. With a pre-June 1st release, the Bears would save $16.9 million with an $8.1 million dead cap for 2026. If they do a post-June 1st release, it spreads that dead cap over. It would only be $4 million in 26, but you also carry $4 million over to 2027. But you would save $21 million in 2026. So I don't think they go for it, but depending on how the season goes, it's not entirely out of the question.
Right.
So he could be playing for money. He could be playing for, to prove himself after kind of a down year for sure.
Did you see the reports that he's looking great and motivated? And you see that already? I mean, it's this time of year for everybody's in the best shape of their lives, but it's notable for Montez after the year he had. So Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even know that, but I do think he has a bounce back season, especially with Dennis Allen for sure.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
All right, boys. Well, we've been on here for an hour and 15 minutes. So we should probably wrap it up here. It's been a blast. You know, instant reactions. We didn't even really have time to think about it before we went on the air. We're pros. You know, hopefully we didn't make fools of ourselves, but it was a good time as always.
For sure.
Cheers one more time. I got a little bit left here of my Lua Brewing Company.
My
Jacob, take. Oh, all right. That's fine.
You got some sprinkles in there.
I've got a There's a drop in there.
And we're not going to judge Jacob, guys, because he was a last minute addition. He didn't know he was going to be on Bears Over Beers. He didn't have time to go to his local grocery store or wherever you guys get liquor where you're at or beer where you're at. It's in North Carolina. You can only get liquor at ABC liquor stores.
Really?
Yeah.
Like no grocery stores or nothing?
You can get beer and wine there, but not liquor.
Wow.
Minnesota used to be like that, I believe. Yeah.
And usually we do beer, so it's whatever. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But schedule at least 10 wins this season, guys. That's pretty solid.
Hope.
Hell yeah.
I don't know when the next time we're going to be on the air is. It'll be happening in the next few weeks for sure. We'll keep these kind of off-season Bears Over Beers rolling, and then, of course, every single week during the regular season. I'm sure Jacob will be back with us several times in the weeks and months ahead.
Hey, you know what? We should keep this record prediction on hand somewhere, and especially if Jacob is right with one of these predictions and we were wrong, he should join us that week for sure.
I'd take that.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, if you're watching us on YouTube, I didn't say it earlier, please hit subscribe. Help out the channel, Second City Gridiron, doing awesome stuff all the time. Multiple podcasts dropping per week. Great roster of media talent here and growing by the week, by the month. It's going to be a fun season once we get to the fall, but we got you covered all summer long. And if you're on the podcast feeds, really appreciate your support as well. Make sure you subscribe. Hit us with that 5-star on Apple or Spotify, and tell a friend. Keep the word spreading about Second City Gridiron. You can find all of our written work over at WindyCityGridiron.com. You can find our socials here in the podcast description. Give us all a follow. Talk some Bears, talk some beers, whatever you want to do. And we'll check you all out again real soon. It's been a blast, everybody. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Cheers.